just eternal in the past, and that's all. But I think there are good reasons, both philosophically and scientifically, to doubt that this is the case. First, philosophically, the idea of an infinite past seems absurd. Just think about it. If the universe never had a beginning, that means that the series of past events in the history of the universe just goes back and back forever. And that therefore the number of events in the past history of the universe is infinite. But mathematicians recognize that the existence of an actually infinite number of things leads to self-contradictions. For example, what is infinity minus infinity? Well, mathematically you get self-contradictory answers. For example, if you had an infinite number of coins, numbered 1, 2, 3, and so on to infinity, and I took away all of the odd-numbered coins, how many coins would you have left? Well, you'd have all the even-numbered coins, right? Or you'd have an infinite number of coins left over. So infinity minus infinity is infinity. But suppose instead I took away all of the coins numbered greater than 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on to infinity. Now how many coins would you have left? Well, only 3. So infinity minus infinity is 3. And yet in each case I took away an identical number of coins from an identical number of coins and came up with contradictory results. In fact, you could subtract infinity from infinity and get any answer from 0 to infinity. This shows that infinity is just an idea in your mind, not something that exists in reality. David Hilbert, who was perhaps the greatest mathematician of the 20th century, says the infinite is nowhere to be found in reality. It neither exists in nature nor provides a legitimate basis for rational thought. The role that remains for the infinite to play, he concludes, is solely that of an idea. But that entails that since past events are not just ideas in your mind, but are real, the number of past events must be finite. Therefore, the series of past events can't go back forever. Rather, the universe must have begun to exist. Now, this purely philosophical conclusion has been confirmed by remarkable discoveries in astronomy and astrophysics. In one of the most startling developments of modern science, we now have pretty good evidence that the universe is not eternal in the past, but had an absolute beginning somewhere around 14 billion years ago in a cataclysmic event known as the Big Bang. And what makes the Big Bang so startling is that it represents the origin of the universe from literally nothing. Nothing. For all matter and energy, even physical space and time themselves, come into being at the moment of the Big Bang. As the physicist Paul Davies explains, the coming into being of the universe, as discussed in modern science, is not just a matter of imposing some sort of organization upon a previous incoherent state, but literally the coming into being of all physical things from nothing. Now, of course, alternative theories have been proposed over the years to try to avert the absolute beginning postulated by the standard Big Bang model. But none of these alternatives has commended itself to the scientific community as more plausible than the Big Bang theory. In fact, in 2003, 3 cosmologists, Arvin Bohr, Alan Guth, and Alexander Vilenkin, were able to prove that any universe which is in a state of cosmic expansion on average over the history of its existence cannot be infinite in the past, but must have an absolute beginning. Vilenkin pulls no punches. He writes, "It is said that an argument is what convinces reasonable men, And the proof is what it takes to convince even an unreasonable man. With the proof now in place, cosmologists can no longer hide behind the possibility of a past eternal universe. There is no escape. They have to face the problem of a cosmic beginning. That problem was nicely articulated by Anthony Kenny of Oxford University. He writes, "A proponent of the Big Bang Theory, at least if he is an atheist, must believe that the universe came from nothing and by nothing." But surely that doesn't make sense. For such a conclusion is, in the words of the philosopher of science, Bernhard Konigschieder, in head-on collision with the most successful ontological commitment in the history of science, namely, the metaphysical principle that out of nothing, nothing comes. So, why does the universe exist instead of just nothing? Where did it come from? There must have been a cause which brought the universe into being. And we can summarize this argument thus far as follows. Premise one, he's already got it up there. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. 2, the universe began to exist. 3, therefore, the universe has a cause. Given the truth of the two premises, the conclusion follows necessarily. Now, from the very nature of the case, this cause must be an uncaused, changeless, timeless, and immaterial being which created the universe. It must be uncaused because we've seen there cannot be an infinite regress of causes. So we must come to an absolutely first, uncaused cause. It must be timeless and therefore spaceless and changeless, at least without the universe, because it created time and space. And therefore it cannot be physical or material, since it transcends both time and space. Moreover, I want to argue this cause must also be personal. Just ask yourself the question, how else could a timeless cause give rise to a temporal effect with a beginning, like the universe? If the cause were just a mechanically operating set of necessary and sufficient conditions, then the cause could never exist without its effect. Once the sufficient conditions for the effect are present, the effect must be present as well. To give an example, the cause of water's freezing is the temperatures being below 0 degrees centigrade. Now, if the temperature were below 0 degrees centigrade from eternity, then any water that was around would be frozen from eternity. It would be impossible for the water to just begin to freeze a finite time ago. So if the cause is permanently present, the effect must be permanently present as well. So how do you get a temporal effect with a beginning from a cause which exists timelessly and permanently? Well, it seems to me that the only answer to this dilemma is if the cause is a personal agent endowed with freedom of the will, who can therefore produce a new effect without any prior determining conditions. To illustrate, a man who has been sitting from eternity could freely will to stand up. And so you would have a new effect a finite time ago that arose from an eternally existing cause. And thus we are brought not merely to a transcendent cause of the universe, but to its personal creator. Number 3, the fine-tuning of the universe for intelligent life.